First of all, good to see you again.
And you.
Thanks for coming in to speak with me. You're one of those MPs who've let your name stand as a candidate for Speaker, a position you've held for the past 4 years in the House of Commons. What is your message to other members of Parliament as they get set to consider their choices on who they want to be the Speaker of the House of Commons?
Well, as they look for a Speaker in this new minority Parliament, they may, I think, perhaps want someone who has done the job, who has experience, not only as Speaker, but who has, I have been in the House in various roles over the years and have a good understanding of what it is to be a member of the third party, as I once was in opposition, to sit as a cabinet minister, to be a parliamentary secretary, to be a backbencher, to have lots of different roles and understand better the perspectives from each of those points of view. I've also served in minority governments, and I've seen what those parliaments worked like. I think that kind of experience all helps, but of course it will be up to the members to make their choice, and frankly I think they have some excellent choices.
It's kind of an interesting process for, and it's what we do here. Some people don't follow it that closely, but you have three of the other candidates are a deputy speaker and two assistant deputy speakers. It's kind of like gunning for the boss's job. Is that what it feels like, or is this something different? This is just an open, democratic process. How do you view this?
Well, I recall in 2000, mind you, in that case, Speaker Gilbert, or you remember Gibby Perron, as we called him, Gib Perron had retired and didn't re-offer that time, so it was an open field, but there were, I think, 10 candidates. And you may recall that at that time you had a series of ballots, and it came down to Peter Milliken and Bob Kilger. There was a vote, and they were tied. People voted again, and they were tied again. Mm-hmm. People voted a third time, and finally Peter Milliken won. But the point is that it's open to anyone, and really, it's the House's right, in my view, to make the choice, to choose who among those willing to do the job it wants to have. And of course, as you know, because of the historic situation where no one wanted to be the Speaker, and sometimes have to tell the monarch that the answer was no from the House.
Right, and that didn't typically go well for the Speaker.
No, exactly. We have a process whereby you actually have to withdraw your name unless otherwise you're automatically in the race.
Right. What do you think changes about the challenges of the job because it's now a minority parliament?
Well, what you expect in a minority parliament is that you'll have a lot of the time a situation where you could be on the verge of an election, and that all of the parties know that there's always the possibility of an election being triggered at any time. Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, parties will know their own wishes and their own decision making on that, and they will know themselves, if they're opposition parties, whether they're at that point, it's their intent or wish at that point to defeat the government and cause an election. But still, you have a different kind of tension that occurs because of that. At the same time, the opposition parties have control of the House, and they can pass motions. They can have impact on various things, which may give them a sense of empowerment.
Let's talk about that. The opposition having control of the House in a minority parliament if they decide to move together. What's the likelihood that the opposition parties could say, you know what, we should get behind one of the candidates from the opposition party so that we have an opposition member in the Speaker's chair?
I think we'll find out tomorrow. I mean, that's a very, it's a question that is very hard to answer. You're asking me to reach into the minds of the MPs.
Well, there's so many calculations, right?
Well,
because do you necessarily, because the Speaker doesn't vote unless there's a tie, mm-hmm. in which case you've given up an opposition member to the Speaker's chair. That member can't vote unless there is a tie. So maybe opposition parties don't want that. But you're right. I guess we'll see. Maybe they'll want to send a message saying we want an opposition MP in the chair.
Well, and I'm aware of that possibility. And while it's been a great honor for me to be in the job for the past 4 years, I put my name forward. I consider that if the House wants me to continue, that it's my responsibility to do the job and to do my best. And if the House decides to relieve me of the responsibilities of trying to maintain decorum, which I've tried very hard to do, and to do the job with impartiality, that's the House's right, and I will look forward to doing other things.
How successful do you think you were at trying to maintain decorum? Because I suppose two things could happen in a minority parliament. Everybody will realize the message Canadians sent by sending a minority parliament, and maybe there'll be a difference in behavior, or maybe they'll in some cases want to double down because they'll be thinking about an election and thinking about the kinds of things they want to present in the House of Commons, and the kind of maybe they'll be overtaken by the thought that we could go to an election and we want to get all our digs in as fast as we can and as soon as we can.
But I don't think that the public have any problem with members of Parliament asking tough questions, or ministers and parliamentary secretaries giving tough answers.
Right. But it's
an aggressive place, and we want that kind of competition in a democracy. We want that
clash of ideas.
That clash of ideas, right? But I think that from what I hear from people, they'd like to hear people ask their question and then stop talking, or have people on their side not be talking when the other side is trying to give their answer. And really, people should speak when they're recognized by the chair. That's the time to speak, not when you don't have the floor. But then again, I think people have heard me say that many times over the past 4 years.
And if you're back in the Speaker's job, what approach do you think you'll be taking to this notion of decorum and how to maintain it?
Well, I think
what we saw,
to
escalating levels of discipline where needed, or
exactly. But I think largely it's up to members to police themselves and to be responsible for their own behavior. And frankly, it would be helpful if their constituents, when they hear about their member misbehaving, or if they can happen to see it, that they let them know they don't like that.
All right, Geoff Regan, candidate for Speaker, was the Speaker, hopes to be Speaker again. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Peter.